How you doing, YouTube? Matt Massa Beer Reviews back with some anniversary jams in the form of Sierra Nevada Brewing. It's their 40th anniversary. More specifically, their hoppy anniversary ale. Sierra Nevada. I've done my fair share of Sierra Nevada reviews. I've had my fair share of Sierra Nevada beers. If you drink beer, hopefully you're much the same, especially if you got into beer prior to like 4 or 5, 6 years ago. You probably hung your hat on a lot of Sierra Nevada beers. But it's been a while since I reviewed one. And this came out, and I was kind of intrigued by it for a couple different reasons. One, it's Sierra Nevada anniversary. That does not suck. 40 years, that's nothing to blink an eye at. And, hoppy anniversary ale. What is this, 6%, I believe? 6%, relatively fresh, a month old at the time of this filming. Less than a month old, actually. So I'm kind of intrigued. Let's dive into this sucker. She's got, it says here, hop-forward beers weren't popular when we started brewing in 1980. Let that sink in. 4 years after I was born. But we love them, and we knew if we were going to open a brewery, we'd better make something distinctive. It's been 40 years since then. We're still brewing what we love. The beer showcases the bold flavors and aromas of classic West Coast IPA, intense pine and citrus with a deep gold color and slight caramel sweetness. Here's to following your passion into the next 40 years. First things first, label-wise, I love it. Love the label. Something about calling out, kind of having that kind of anniversary, kind of numbering thing, kind of enclosed in that kind of framing and all that stuff kind of always works for me. So that in of itself kind of works. So classic to a T. It just screams Sierra Nevada, as does this, as does that pour. I mean, you're talking about, let's pour it all in there. Label's awesome. That, my friends, is what we call clear beer. Yes, that is the thing that exists. I wouldn't expect anything less from Sierra Nevada for an anniversary beer, so we'll see what's what. Now, they're talking about a 6% anniversary ale. Hop forward, West Coast leaning. We're kind of verging on the edge of a little bit of kind of pale ale territory here. So, is it going to be similar or not? We'll see. Just under index finger, just off white, tight compact bubbles, slightly get a little larger towards the top. Pretty relatively clear. Sans a little bit of particulate. If you probably, there's no way you're going to be able to pick this up actually in the camera, but there's a soft kind of particulate floating around in that sucker. So, in the grand scheme of things, it is a clear beer, but there is a bit and pieces of things and stuff floating around this beer. Not necessarily a bad thing. So, yeah. Let's see if we can get a nose in this sucker. I don't want to say this because I think it's I'm a sucker for the spelling bee. The Scripps natural spelling bee. And the first rule of the spelling bee is do not use the word you're trying to define in the definition. So if someone says, give me a definition of the word I'm trying to spell, you can't be if their word is cat. You can't be use the word cat in definition. That's the whole premise of definitions. You can't use that, and they use that in the spelling bee. I don't want to do this, but I have to. This smells like Sierra Nevada. It smells like Sierra Nevada. And that is kind of okay, what do you mean by that? It's kind of one of those things where you kind of know when you smell it, and that's where this beer kind of lies. It's got this kind of, they talk about the soft caramel malt thing floating around in there. That is spot on as far as description goes. Because it is a soft caramel, but not what you think. It's not candy sweet. It's not it's not anything close to being sweet. It's more of just, it's a maltiness that has a slight caramel kind of vibe to it in a very fun way. There's other kind of malts in there. You're getting a regular 2-row, you're getting a little bit of Pilsen malt, all that kind of stuff. But that caramel kind of leads the way. So when you're talking about the grand scheme of things, when you're talking about a malt base, that caramel portion of the show, which is gentle, it's not over the top, that is the leading the way when it comes to the malt side of things. Now, as far as the hops go, it is a nice marriage between a subtle West Coast pininess, a subtle West Coast kind of resonance, and a soft kind of orange pithiness. Again, the West Coast leads the way. Same thing as that malt. You get that kind of nice, soft, kind of piney resinous, not over the top. It's not a kind of challenge beer. It's not a 2x4 to the face of hoppiness, but that's leading the way with that subtle kind of orange rind, kind of grapefruit rindiness, kind of following just behind. This is going to be a super chugger, super drinkable beer. We're just going to dive in. Cheers. Ooh, I can drink like 50 of these. I mean, it's 6%, so that would be very, very dangerous. But I mean, it has this nice resinous character that is even more propped up in the actual taste, so that kind of leads the way. It takes the reins and kind of pulls the beer along. That malt character, you still get that little bit of kind of soft kind of caramel thing, but it's much below that kind of resinous, but not too far behind to where you forget that it's part of the beer. That kind of citrus, that kind of pithiness, that rindiness with that little bit of grapefruitness is kind of floating somewhere in the middle of all that. It's the Merriam-Webster dictionary of clean and crisp and well made. A little bit of dryness, the appropriate amount of sweetness, a beautiful mouthfeel. This is great beer. This is beer. That's the whole fun part about it. When I talked about the kind of spelling bee, you can't define, a definition with the word you're trying to define. I kind of feel weird just saying this is beer. Again, I've used that kind of sometimes to explain kind of adjunct lager, and be like, this is beer flavored beer, or other beers I've used that, it's beer. This is kind of what I remember and what I would classify as beer from when I was growing up. When I started this review, I kind of said, okay, you're talking about a West Coast hoppy ale, resinous leaning, a little bit of malt character. I said, this kind of reminds me of what Sierra Nevada Pale Ale is, but it's that. It's Sierra Nevada Pale Ale, just a little bit more, a little bit more extra, not in an aggressive way. There's a movie. Is it a movie? There's a movie or a TV show. I'm blanking on it, but it kind of talks about being a little bit sultry, a little bit flirty, a little bit aggressive in a sexual manner, but the way you could be that way back in the the 20s and 30s and 40s. So you had a woman, that was trying to flirt with a man. I forget what movie this is. It's going to drive me insane because I can hear the words in my head. But anyway, talking about this woman flirting. And not so much in today's world, to where if a woman flirts, it's literally just like, twerking and all kinds of overt sexual innuendo. It was, a woman in a nice dress, and she just showed a little bit of leg and pulled it back. You know what I mean? Just a little bit more, like just showing that ankle, showing the lower part of that, leg, and pulling it back, and doing that in a very subtle but yet meaningful way. That's where this beer kind of lies for me. That's where it kind of makes a bridge between where Pale Ale goes and this ends, to where it's very similar to Pale Ale in a lot of aspects, but it's different, and that is showing a little bit more. Not aggressive. It's not gonna scream in your face and show too many things, but it's showing you a little bit and pulling it back, and it's being very, very seductive, very sultry, in a very, very adult, very classy kind of way, for the lack of a better term. It's just a delicious beer. It's great. It's fantastic. I think it's a beer that I honestly think it's a beer a lot of people would really enjoy. people of new school ilk. You know, even if you're into the juicy characteristics of a lot of beer and you're into haze and all those kind of things, I could see you really enjoying this beer. It has enough sweetness and has enough kind of character to it from the hop end of things, but it does give you bitterness and dryness. Old school beer drinkers are going to love this. But I think it bridges a lot of gaps. Sure, it's not new school haze, but it's just made so well. And just, it's so reminiscent of what everybody thought was so amazing when beer originally kind of made that turn for me, which was for myself, which is in the mid to late 90s. But it has so much of the goodness of what beer still is. I'm going to get a little sappy, so I'm going to tie it up real quick. It's just a really well-made beer. It showcases the best of the West Coast, elevates what I think is one of the more seminal beers in beer history, which is Sierra Nevada Pale Ale. It's just a really tasty beer. Let's talk about it. Is this one of the better 6% or below hop-forward beers that I've had as of late? Yes. Up there, maybe Mount Rushmore status. Value and availability, you could probably get it anywhere. I think I paid $11 for a 6-pack of this all day. And leave you with, if you like what we like this beer, if you like beer. I'm just going to leave it at that. I'm not going to talk about anything else and just say, if you like beer, you will like this beer. So there you go. Another review in the books. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Down there if you want to talk about it. Massive Beers if you want to check me out doing the social media stuff. Beer Massive if you want to check me out doing the whole podcasting thing. And hopefully you guys enjoyed our review. Hopefully you're enjoying a little bit of Sierra Nevada 40th right now. Hopefully see you next time. Cheers.